What I just have written some notes on were 5 reasons why we should actually focus on retention. So the first one is that growth means nothing without retention. So it doesn't matter how many new properties you are signing. If you are losing them out the back door, then you've got the issue. So, which we've sort of talked about already. And then the second point was that retention, I believe, is actually more profitable than acquisitions. And maybe property managers don't know, but to buy a property, it would cost, I don't know, it could cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 per property. And that's a lot of money. So if we look at that cost and then look at how much it can cost to retain, retaining a client doesn't actually really cost anything financially. You just have to do your job better and maybe an extra 1%.
Welcome back to the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And today we're diving into an incredibly powerful topic, and it's around retention and why it's the new growth. And we all know that attracting new clients is important. But did you know that focusing on retaining the clients you already have can lead to even greater growth? That's right. It's time to shift our mindset and explore how retention can drive sustainable success in property management. And to help us unpack this concept, I'm thrilled to have a very special guest today, Ashleigh Goodchild. Ash is a powerhouse in the property management industry with over 25 years experience. She's the director and property management expert at SOCO Realty, where her agency manages over 1,200 properties in Perth. Ash isn't just an industry leader though. She's also a mentor, educator, and advocate. She's the director at Property Profiling Australia, guiding investors to make confident buying decisions, and co-creator of The Empowered Investor, Australia's first online course created by property managers specifically for investors looking to buy interstate. On top of all that, Ash is passionate about philanthropy, serving as an ambassador for Orana House and sitting on the board of the Find Your Feet Foundation, supporting families in need during tough times. Through her work with the PM Collective, Ash is helping property managers all around Australia thrive by promoting a collaborative and supportive environment for success. Today, we'll be talking about why retention isn't just a buzzword, it's a growth strategy that can transform your business, from building long-term relationships to creating an exceptional client experience. Ash is here to share her insights on how focusing on retention can take your property management business to new heights. So grab yourself a notepad and get ready to learn some game-changing strategies. Ash, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Property Management Podcast. You are no stranger to this podcast. I don't know how many times you've been on now, but for anyone who may not know who you are, which they have to be living under a rock, but can you just share a little bit about yourself and what you do now?
No worries, you're very kind, thank you. My name's Ashleigh, I'm based in Perth. I run SOCO Realty, which I've had since I was 23, so 20 years. And we've built our rent roll from 0 through to 1,200. We're sitting at the moment and have a team of 15 plus 5 offshore. And then I run PM Collective, which basically is sort of podcasts like Kylie or like yourself and some coffee conversations all around Australia.
They are amazing. And I am going to host some. Once I get settled into my new hood, I am definitely I'm going to find a coffee shop. Actually, I have found one literally round the corner from me. This is my second one for the day. So I definitely will be organising that.
Amazing, because we've got our goal of 200 for 2025. So that will help me reach that goal. So it'll be wonderful.
Amazing. Well, I will book in multiple ones as well. So let's talk about today's topic, which is retention is the new growth. And why do you think so many businesses overlook the power of customer retention in favour of constantly chasing those new clients?
I think that, and this is a very generalized comment, a lot of real estate agencies that are run by sales directors. And I think that those ones probably focus on that growth more, because for them, it's very much a numbers game. How many new properties have we bought into the business and how many listings have we got, and all of that sort of chaotic thought. And I don't know why they're not paying attention then to what's happening in the actual property management department. I guess they tend to look at the growth, but then not look at anything else. And Obviously, we all should know that you bring in 30 properties a month, but you lose 35. Well, you're not getting anywhere. But to some of these business owners, they might be like, oh, like we did really, really well this month. When people talk about growth, they don't necessarily, when we talk to BDMs and we say, hey, how many did you bring in this month or what's your numbers? And they go, yeah, we bring in 10 a month, 15 a month. No one then follows that up with well, how many did you lose? Like, what's your retention rate? Because that's just as important, if not more important, to number one, how your property management team is running, like how it is as a business. And number two, whether those numbers are true. So all the time we've got property managers talking about their numbers, but that's fine. That shows that maybe they're doing a really great job, but that's actually not a reflection on the business.
No, absolutely not. And I'm going to share a story with you in a minute about exactly that, what you've just shared then. But I've always had retention as a KPI for my business as a team. It's always been one of the KPIs that we've tracked in the business. And because everyone in my business has always been BDM focused, everyone is responsible for the growth of the business, as well as everyone is responsible for the retention of clients as well. And obviously, you can't do anything about clients that are selling unless you refer, and hopefully you're referring them to your in-house sales team as well. But I actually had an experience where one year we grew 100 managements, and I was like high-fiving everybody, celebrating, carrying on like we were just the best business in the world. And then when I sat down and did the end of year review, I think we got 100 managements and we lost 95 managements.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know. And which is probably at that point where I went, you know what, we need to now start tracking retention. And I think when you are starting out and you're in that active growth mode, and then there is a season for that, but you then are going to get to a point where retention is going to become one of your metrics and an important part of your growth as well. So do you have anything in place that you've implemented? Because you've just been through that frantic growth period over in Western Australia. So what are you implementing now in terms of that retention side of things?
Yeah, we use Airtable. Table is not necessarily, it's like a fancy Excel spreadsheet for those that don't know, but it has triggers and stuff. And in the past, I would be guessing at what our retention was and what our loss rate was. And it didn't feel like a lot, to be honest. But I think that if you're someone that says, and like I said, a number of years ago, oh, yeah, we barely lose any managements, you will be very surprised to actually look at the numbers and actually see what they are. It does creep up quite easily. And it's not necessarily from bad management or service issues. It's just from lots of things, people moving in and family members moving in, etc. So now we use Airtable and we're starting to document whether they are, selling, service issues, no reason basically. So we're starting to do that, but it definitely is a new journey for us. And it's only purely because we've now got the systems to be able to track, where previously we sort of just didn't really have the systems. So hence we just didn't worry. But also, like, this probably is not really what you want to hear, but I also was just looking at our Property Me software and looking at those numbers and making sure that they're heading in the right direction roughly. That was enough for me to be happy. I could see that there was significant growth. I know that in the peak we were bringing in 30 properties per month, and I know we certainly weren't losing anywhere close to that. So I was pretty relaxed with it all. But I think that now our BDM numbers are dropping just because of the market. Then I do need to keep a closer eye on it, hence why I am putting in that system.
Amazing. And you have got some other areas that you wanted to talk about around the retention of managements in the current markets. And I think a lot of markets are very similar to Perth. We've probably been there a lot sooner than you guys have been. And I have many conversations every single week, and every single one of those conversations is around growth at the moment. Everybody is struggling with it. Everybody wants more growth. Again, something that I believe in is that it is a holistic approach to growth. And that holistic approach to growth is definitely that retention and looking after your existing clients side of things.
Yeah, I just want to, sorry, it's a little bit off topic, but I just want to reference this as another mindset sort of thing with rent rolls and how we focus on the numbers, but not on the retention. Very similar to the way business owners look at the number of properties they've got under management and not at their profit margin as well. So it's like we're all sort of muddled up with actually what's really, really important. So what I just have written some notes on were 5 reasons why we should actually focus on retention. So the first one is that growth means nothing without retention. So it doesn't matter how many new properties you are signing. If you are losing them out the back door, then you've got the issue. So, which we've sort of talked about already. And then the second point was that retention, I believe, is actually more profitable than acquisitions. And maybe property managers don't know, but to buy a property, it would cost, I don't know, it could cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 per property. And that's a lot of money. So if we look at that cost and then look at how much it can cost to retain, retaining a client doesn't actually really cost anything financially. You just have to do your job better and maybe an extra 1%. So like, what are your thoughts around that sort of comment? Do you think people notice it?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Retaining and keeping clients happy. I'm sure we'll dive into this, but that topic around raving fans is much easier, a much smarter way to do business than going out and buying the properties. Or are you talking about acquisition as you mean as in like going out and approaching and poaching other people, or actually buying other properties?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a good point because you've got, so you've got the acquisition of actually purchasing a property. Then you've got the cost of actually a BDM sourcing that property. So that's probably a really good point because I guess as a business owner, I actually haven't done that. And I think it'd be a really good exercise to do. Like my BDM, how much does it cost me for her to go get a property? So I guess the best way, and I'm only like just thinking this right now, like as we're talking about it, is I guess looking at your BDM's wage in total with whatever you pay as a base and commission, etc. Would you divide it by how many they've you probably divide it by how many they've bought in and work out just roughly what that figure would be. That would be how you'd work it out, wouldn't it?
It would be. And you'd have to also, so for us with our lead generation that we do for businesses, for us to get 20 good leads for a BDM takes between 15 and 20 hours to get those leads. So you'd have to work out the time it's going to take for them to actually spend getting that data together.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just
Or if they're going to a BD, or if they're going to a networking event, what's the time they're going to be spending at that networking event? So
yeah, so I'm just doing some rough calculations. So you could work it out like that in terms of the hours. I've worked it out on roughly the wage by how many properties she brings in, and I've worked out about $1,200 per property that it costs to acquire each one. So let's sort of just use that figure. And this is really rough for anyone listening as well. You can work this out based on your own. But if I would probably say between $1,000 and $2,000 is what I would guess most business owners are paying for each lead coming through with the BDM.
Wow.
That'd be my thoughts. That's quite a lot.
Yeah. Whereas if you're retaining a property, ultimately when you go to sell that property, that's $5,000. It's not costing you anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's just about knowing those numbers and just getting really clear with that, because ultimately you might have a BDM that isn't actually bringing in necessarily high numbers. Maybe you're paying a lot for them. Maybe your numbers are working out that it's costing, I don't know, maybe your cost is $5,000 per property for that BDM for every property bringing in. Maybe that would be easy just to do an acquisition. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. But it also helps you if you know that number, work out how much time and energy to put into your existing clients. So if we say that it costs for a BDM, if you had a BDM in your business and it was going to cost them between $1,000 and $2,000 for every new listing, what could you offer your property managers and your existing staff to create raving fans in the business? What could you set up for that? It might cost you $500. Maybe it's about I don't know, spending a little bit of money, whether it's a commission for your PMs, whether it's something as a present for your new landlords, a gift. I don't know. But if you were to spend $500 for your existing property management team to bring in new leads, you would be way in front doing that.
Absolutely. Well, let's maybe talk about, before we dive onto your next points, just because you've brought that up now, and it was something that I had marked to talk about. So let's talk about some ways then that anyone listening could work on retaining clients. Some of the things that I obviously am a huge advocate of is your communication. You've got to over communicate with your clients. That is what all of the clients want. That is why they leave agencies most of the time, is from poor communication. So I think that is number one. What else would you add to that, Ash?
Yeah, adding to that communication, I think it would be adding to that conversation. Well, yeah, but also just finding out more about them. Like, what are their intentions? Like, I'm not saying you give them the hard 5 questions every time you talk to them, but bringing into a conversation like, hey, I've just done your routine inspection. It's looking really great. You're getting great rent return. What's your future goal? Are you planning on ever getting another investment property, or are you happy just with one? Like, what's your thoughts? What's your plans? And maybe the owner says, actually, I have been sort of thinking about buying something else. And then you say, yeah, I think it's a great idea because this one's performing so well and you've got a nice stable investment property. So it'd be a really great time to purchase something. Do you want me to get someone to give you a call to chat about it further? That very, very simple conversation now means you're not, when you're calling them anyway about that routine inspection, or even maybe not when they're spending money on maintenance, because that's going to be like, I don't want another rental property. But, when you're doing those good phone calls, or when you're doing that rent review, for example, and you are saying, listen, we've been able to secure you a really good new rate for your new lease. What's your next goal? Do you have any more goals with your investment journey? So you're just adding on that question, and you don't know where that could take you. Or maybe the client says, yeah, I've already got 4 investment properties. I'm happy to stop. Oh, tell me more about them. Are they local or are they interstate? You know what I mean? It's just having that conversation, getting to know them. When you've got that information and that data, you can put that in your system. Maybe that client says, no, I'm not interested in getting anything more. This one's quite stressful. Great. That's great feedback to get, because now you can be putting that information into some sort of database to go, this client is feeling very stressed. I need to make sure that I try and keep him as stress-free as possible, because one thing that I do always talk about is that our role is to keep that landlord in our business for as long as possible. And we need to make sure that financially that they're going well with their property, and emotionally they're going well. Therefore, we're not putting headaches on them. We're taking that bunch of stress from them where we can. So that type of communication will go a long way to see where they're at, what their goals are, whether you can help them get another property.
I think the word you were looking for before was building relationships with clients.
Yeah.
It's not transactional. It's you're diving deeper, you're building a relationship. And it's funny, I had a coaching call with a property manager yesterday, and one of the goals that I gave her was to do Friday 5 calls, where she calls 5 owners every Friday. It's a good call. It's not, there's nothing happening. It's just a positive, pick up the phone. How you going? What's happening? How are you finding things with our service? How are you finding things with the property? Nothing's wrong. Everything, this a really, really positive call. And she said, oh, I've been emailing. And I'm like, no, that's not the point of it. The point is to pick up. You can't build a relationship with somebody via emails. And she said, but I've been using ChatGPT to create the emails. And I'm like, that's great. Like, I love that for you. But the point is, pick up the phone. You can have deeper conversations with people. You don't know where the conversation's going to take you, what opportunities are there. That example you just used then about the landlord feeling stressed, it could be an opportunity for them to speak to somebody in your sales team, because ultimately you also do make money from selling properties as well. So it's a win-win if you can get into that mindset of building relationships with your clients. Are you feeling overwhelmed and thinking about selling your rent roll? Don't worry, you're not alone. and HDNU is here to help. Whether you're ready to sell now or you just want to plan for the future, the friendly and approachable team at HDNU makes the process simple and stress-free. Hello, yes please. With over 30 years of expertise, they're not just about crunching the numbers. They genuinely care about helping you maximize your agency's value and get the best outcome for you. Their sales readiness bundle is like having a trusted advisor by your side. They'll work closely with you to assess your agency's key factors, create an easy to understand heat map of your strengths and opportunities, and then sit down with you for a 90-minute workshop to guide you on what to do next. They'll look at everything from rent roll earnings and rent arrears to compliance and team performance and explain it all in plain English. If you're planning to sell soon, HDNU can even handle the whole process for you, from finding qualified buyers to negotiating the deal. Their friendly, professional team takes the stress out of selling so you can feel confident every step of the way. And to get started, simply book in a meeting with the team today. Their link is in the show notes. They're here to help you move forward with confidence. Let's be real. Compliance is one of the biggest challenges in property management, and it can be overwhelming to navigate. It's time-consuming, stressful, and let's face it, one missed compliance check could lead to serious legal and financial risks, and no one wants that. That's where Sensor Insure comes in. Powered by smart sensor technology, it offers highly competitive building and landlord insurance, bundled with an ecosystem of smart safety devices. These include tamper-proof smoke alarms and water leak detectors with automated remote testing and a 24/7 accessible audit trail. Yes, you heard me right. Sensor Insure is a game changer. It's always on and integrates seamlessly with your trust platform to streamline processes and provides live reporting across your entire rental portfolio. This ensures you're always meeting compliance requirements, giving you total peace of mind. No more waking up in the middle of the night stressed or worried that you've missed something or your team has missed something. So whether you're looking to improve your processes and efficiency, reduce stress, or protect your agency from risk, Sensor Insure has you covered. You really should see how it works. I totally encourage you to book in a free demo today by heading to sensorglobal.com or the show notes to learn more about their solutions and how they can transform your compliance game.
And that brings us into then the investor audits, which, like you were saying, you've got to do it on the phone. And the investor audits, I actually encourage people to do on Zoom. So that's taking that relationship even a step further with now you're face-to-face with the client, having those conversations. And they've actually been an incredible part for not only retention for me, but also for new business. And so the investor audits, I remember doing a couple not long ago. And when I did the audit, and actually what's interesting is that I remember a property manager saying to me, Ash, I thought an investor audit was just when you did their rent review and negotiated their new lease at the end of the term. I thought that's what an investor audit was. And I was like, no, there's so much more to it. But I remember these two clients on the same day, ironically, both said to me, oh, Ash, that was so good. Can you do it for my other property? And I'm like, what other property? No, I didn't say it like that. But, in my mind, I was thinking, what other property as I put my hands together? And I was like, sure, no worries. And so we bought up the property. And I obviously can't do it in as much detail because I don't know history, but I can still provide a few reports on it. And we actually gained those two new managements from those two clients just simply by offering something more than what the other property manager was doing. And there was a care factor that we care about your maintenance levels. We care about your mortgage rate. We care about you, how you're feeling emotionally. I'm asking them, how are you feeling emotionally with your property? Are you finding you're still loving the idea of being an investor? Are you finding it stressful? Like, I want to know that information. And then equally, we had one actually just the other day. Fortunately, we don't have too many negatives, but we did have one where we've got this one portfolio. I'm sure it's got like bad juju on it because it's just like my one portfolio in my business that changes property managers regularly, like every 6 months, and genuine reasons. Like, I'm not talking bad property managers. They're retiring, they're moving up north, they're moving here, just random. So there was very sensitive clients in that portfolio. So Marissa, my operations manager, did an investor audit on that portfolio, and a client came on and was really, really upset. And she did the audit. He was so happy by it, but we also gave him an opportunity in a very casual environment to give us some feedback and how he was so frustrated. So Marissa moved it on to one of our stable property managers and sent me through an email, CC'd me in the email, and it said, Ash, this owner was really quite upset with the change of property managers. However, I've smoothed it over. I've gone through his portfolio. He's really, really wrapped now, all good. And I remember saying to Marissa, this is exactly the reason why we do investor audits, is to capture those clients, because you know what? They stay silent, they stay pissed off, and then one day they just take their property and you wouldn't even know, because some of them, like, while there are a lot of landlords that are very vocal and loud, there's a lot more. Well, I probably experience more if I'm losing the business, more silence. And then one day they're gone. So to be able to keep that client, turn him into a raving fan by one simple conversation, is an incredible and important part of the business. And while, yes, we're doing good things, we're capturing the negative parts of our business as well, which is just so important.
Absolutely is. And two things I want to say there. The negative stuff, the metrics, that they're great, because that's the only way you're going to find things to fix. I actually used to do that with my receptionist. She would keep a log of all the incoming phone calls, and then we would go through at the end of the month and see what people were calling the office about. Then our job the next month was to find solutions so that people didn't have to call us for the next month. We'd fix that problem. We'd fix that problem. We'd fix that problem, whether it's tenants or property owners. So yeah, getting those negative feedback metrics is great for problem solving in your business. And I'm feeling there's a resource we can put together for everybody around how to have these conversations with investors. How do you open up? What are the questions you ask them? So I don't know, maybe we'll get together after the podcast and put our heads together with a little free resource, because I think that is the mindset that people have. They're terrified of picking up the phone in case they're going to get negative feedback. But I guess the spin that you've just said to put on it, and I want to encourage as well, is negative feedback's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because then you know what to fix before they walk out the door. So that's probably the first part of the retention strategy. And maybe even doing something like a survey for all your existing clients, a quick Google Doc survey, and find out how are they rating the service? What are some of the issues? How do they rate your communication? How do they rate your handling of maintenance? And give them opportunities to give you open feedback. Could be a good start to fixing and good start to the retention of clients.
Yeah, and you could ultimately do that as an anonymous survey if you preferred, as an agency as well. Like, I don't think that necessarily needs to be something where people's names are attached. So yeah, that would absolutely. And I mean, that's my third point, which is retention is the window into the business health. And so the tracking why landlords leave tells you more than KPIs ever will. And are they, like exactly what you said, are they leaving because of service, price, sales pressure, external life factors? And the retention data gives you the truth that you can act on. So that was exactly what you just mentioned. That brings us into the role of the property manager, and it's their job role as well to give feedback to the business owner. If you are noticing that you've got a lot of owners selling, a lot of owners moving back in, a lot of owners, I don't know, maybe you're losing them for service quality. If you're noticing a trend, you need to bring it to the attention of someone in the office and talk about it so that you can put that in place. If you are noticing that there's lots of people selling, okay, great. What do we need to do? We need to make sure that everyone knows that we sell properties. Maybe you send out a subtle email to say, hey, just letting you know, we've got time this month to do free sales appraisals on your property. Let us know if you want one. Maybe you're seeing a lot of people moving back into the property. Well, probably can't do a lot about that, but you still should bring it to the business owner's attention so that you can go, okay, this is what we're going to notice with our portfolio, and just, make decisions as a business about how you're going to move forward with those trends.
Yep. Totally agree that you should be always looking for trends. And that goes the same when retention's not the trend either in the business. And then like, are investors buying up in a particular area? Is there new developments coming on? Like looking always for the different trends in your area and in real estate is really important. It's how you stay ahead of the game.
Yeah. And business owners need the property managers to give us that support. Like, I'm not necessarily going to see everything on the ground. I'm not going to listen to every conversation you have. So, if a property manager's listening, don't just be mindful of that and understand that you are such an important role in that side of things as well. Which brings us into sort of the last one, which is how retention creates stability for the team. So having a high turnover on your rent roll means more onboarding, more chaos, more stress. And we all know as a property manager that the longer your clients stay with you, the easier it is to manage them. And the property managers that I've got that manage higher numbers are the ones that have obviously been with me for a while, but have a very, very stable portfolio. Like, they've got a maxed out portfolio, their clients stay, they don't lose any clients for any reason. And it's very easy. That property manager has a much easier life than the property manager who is dealing with the new clients or change of clients all the time. So this is more for the business owner. Retention is going to keep your team happy. Like, if you are a business and there are businesses out there that have a high turnover. So basically they bring in loads of listings and new managements and they lose lots out the door. But and I know it sounds silly, but that's actually just their business plan. Like, they just accept bring in high, lose high, and there's a big churn rate. Then you are going to have a very stressed team, because I feel like the new managements that come on board, it takes you a while, even just for new managements as a property manager, to get to know them, to gain their trust, to get them to be emotionally, they're new investors. They're still struggling with the idea of being investors and getting used to mortgage repayments on it and chipping in and maintenance and all of that. They're really hard to handle. So I would say that you probably need a good 2 or 3 years with a landlord to really get them in that sweet spot where they're real easy, you each other's style, you just get the work done and it's nice and easy. So if your clients are not staying with you for 3 years or longer, it's going to be harder to manage them. And and that could be contributing to burnout in your team.
Absolutely. I love that. Onboarding. I think that is the start of retention for your business. Setting up that relationship from the start is the most important thing you can do to turning those clients into long-term raving fans. And then having built into your business a communication plan for that first 12 months of that client coming into your business. What do they get after 1 week? What do they get after 2 weeks? What do they get after 6 weeks? What do they get at 3 months? What do they get? Have that built in and have it set up and automated as part of their onboarding. And then there's a lot of trainers that do teach that long onboarding. I can't even think of the name of the trainer now, but there's trainers that have got great onboarding offers out there, but it doesn't have to be complicated, but have touch points in your business to set up that relationship and turn them into those raving fans. And another thing that I wanted to go back to as well, when we're talking about retention, and it kind of it was similar to what you were saying about the investor education evenings, was something that worked really well for me was, as we've had more legislation changes, I started doing investor webinars for my clients. And I would also share it on my social media so any investors could turn up and do it. But it was just for my own clients, inviting them. And I got great show up rates. I got great feedback from it. And when I eventually went to sell my business, a lot of them were asking me, will the new agency give us updates on the legislation like you've been doing? And then that was just such a simple, send out a Zoom link at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Send them a copy of the replay. You do it regardless if no one turns up. I can guarantee you they'll turn up if it's something really relevant to them, like legislation changes. And yeah, that's been amazing. And I think, like, just to kind of wrap up what we've said, because I think you've raised, as you always do, some really valuable points there and some great takeaways for everybody. Retention is the easiest way, I think, to grow your business without the stress, the burnout, the chaos. It makes everybody feel good in your team. And yeah, I think it's the future.
And I guess it's also just relevant to those business owners out there that don't have a BDM, can't afford a BDM. Make sure that you're getting your property management right first, and make sure your retention is at a good level, because I think that there would be business owners out there who are maybe losing a lot of business and then panicking, going, oh, we need a BDM to bring in new business. And it's like, well, hold on a second. I don't know whether you need a BDM to help bring in new business because you're losing so much. I think you should be focusing on why you're losing too much. And that should be where you're spending the money and getting that foundation right before you bring in that BDM. So I guess that's probably, for me, something that a business owner should keep in mind. And also for a smaller agency that can't afford a BDM, don't stress about it. Just look, okay, I can't afford one at the moment, but what can I do now with my existing clients? But I also do want to say that you're not going to get the same numbers as what a full-time BDM bringing in your business is. You're not going to have that same growth. So we're not suggesting that retention, you're going to get that same BDM growth, because you're not. But you have to have that solid foundation before you even think about that new growth. I guess that's probably what I'm more trying to say is, getting that right first is so much more important.
We're actually going to dive into this topic in a little bit more detail in a webinar that we're going to share in our own private communities. So if you are, and we're going to give you some of the actionable steps and how you can actually turn your clients into raving fans, as well as grow your business. There's some ways that you can do that as well. So if you would like to, I'll pop a link to the webinar in the show notes, or you can reach out to Ash or I directly and find out how to join our inner circle. So Ash, if you could just wrap up this podcast episode with the closing tradition of sharing a personal development tool with the community, that would be amazing.
Oh, okay. You put me on the spot. Personal development tool. Can it be a book that I've just read?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I have just finished How to Die with Zero, and I'm telling everyone about that one. I think I told you about it. I think you said have you read it? Or
No, I haven't, but I want to, yes.
Okay, so I've just finished the audiobook, How to Die with Zero, and I loved it because it talks about the journey of life and how you should spend your time when it comes to experiences, being generous with your time, generous with your money, and not focusing so much on retirement. It's not about being silly or reckless, but it's really just about focusing your journey of life, because you don't know when you're going to go. No one does. And the book was just a good reminder of focusing on what's important in life. So I loved it, and I think everyone should read it.
That's amazing. You know what, Ash, my dad he's just turned 80. He has packed up a caravan and is around Australia. He's over in Broome at the moment, actually, but he has worked really hard his whole life, and he's saved up, and he's got good retirement, good super, done all the right things, but he's sacrificed experiences. So he's doing the helicopter rides, he's doing the small plane rides, he's doing all the things that he's never ever done because he was always holding on to his money. But now at 80, he's going for it. So
love it.
Yeah, so he hasn't even read that book, but I think he's got to a point in his life where he's gone, you know what? Why am I holding on? I can't take it with me. So
yeah. So good.
Yeah, it is good. Ash, thank you so much for joining me, and I am always grateful to have a connection with you.
You too. Thanks, Carly.
If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up, because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmeo is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmeo isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative prop tech scale up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmeo has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmeo. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmeo.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmeo is KOLMEO.
Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.